Hello, 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 everybody. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. My name is Coach Monique Beck, and you are joining the Legendary Woman Live. We haven't been on for a while, but man, I definitely wanted to get this beautiful young woman on the Legendary Woman broadcast. Why? Because she has an amazing story, and I'm not going to steal her story or glory, right? But I'm going to allow her to share. But her name is Jessica Hightower. She is an artist coming out of Benton Harbor, Michigan. Absolutely amazing. Okay, amazing artist. I was able to purchase some of her artwork at a local event in Michigan. And she's just absolutely the bomb. All right. So she's going to share a little bit on our broadcast today on what God is doing in her life. And we're just going to allow the Holy Spirit to lead us. And so I'm hoping that there is a legendary woman out there that is going to connect with us today and hear her story. But also, right before we get started, I just wanted to share just for a second what the legendary woman is. And so, back probably 2 or 3 years ago, God dropped that in my spirit to just start going live with this topic, the legendary woman. This is the Proverbs 31 woman that we hear of in the Bible. This woman had it going on, right? We know she was sowing at night. She was, considering a field and she was purchasing it, and so she was very well respected. She was resourceful. She was a businesswoman, right? And so that's why I believe that God has commissioned me to do this and to invite other legendary women who are on the move, experiencing life, but truly tapping into success. And so, without further ado, I want to welcome to the stage Miss Jessica Hightower.
Hey, how you doing?
Yes, Jessica, man, introduce yourself a little bit more than what I did, and let's just get
Okay.
into it. Talk to
Uh,
us.
I'm Jessica Hightower. As you said, I'm an artist from Benton Harbor. I work mostly in portrait art, but I also do murals. Uh, and I've recently did like one for school. I've also done outdoor, indoor murals, whatever. I also teach art. And yeah, I've been doing that for the last 3 years. Yeah. Uh,
So 3 years as a full-time entrepreneur.
yep.
Absolutely love to hear that. And so talk to us about what God has been doing in your life as of late.
Uh, Well, as of late, I've experienced a miracle actually.
Come
In
on.
my so I've been trying to tell everybody about this. Like, so I'll just try to. I won't spend too long saying it, but I around March 21st, so this was very recent. I got sick with the flu. Then like that following Tuesday, I started to have episodes where I was passing out. So like I would my hearing would cut out. I would get really, really hot. And then all of a sudden I'm like feeling I'm going to pass out. The first time I got to the shower, ran some cold water on my head, called my parents. They took me to the emergency room. While I was there, they tested me for this different stuff, came back just influenza A. And they sent me home because, emergency room is like, you got the flu, just take care of yourself, send me home. But when I got home, my parents stuck around. Thank God for them because, like, I'm really blessed to have the kind of parents I do. They stuck around, and I went to the restroom, and all of a sudden, the same thing happened again. Ears, hearing cut out, and got really hot. I remember calling out, and then I don't remember anything until my dad was kind of standing over me and calling the ambulance. Ambulance took me right back to the emergency room. A doctor was there, and another thing I want to say is that like it seemed like it was God like making sure everything was in order for me to have this testimony because there was a doctor on staff that recognized what I was going through immediately. He was like, I hope this isn't it. But he's like, it's very rare when people to keep this in mind, like even though this is the flu, this part of the flu is rare to happen that the virus was attacking one of my organs. So like any virus that you catch, the common cold, flu, or whatever, has the ability to attack one organ in your body, like just to latch onto it. And the flu was attacking my heart. So my the outtake of your heart is supposed to be around 40-50% for a normal adult. Mine's was 20 and less, so mine's was like in the teens. So my heart was barely pushing out enough blood to get to the rest of my body. So that's the reason why I was passing out a lot. Um, they had me in the ICU. It happened again that night, and then they was like passed out again, and they was like, we can't help treat her the way that we want to. Let's see if we can get her into a place that specializes in this. And they sent me to Grand Rapids Myers Heart Center. Uh, and they called there. There was a room available. It had just became available. So another thing, stuff was like right in order. And also they was like, we need to get her there quickly. And like, there was a helicopter actually out there on the pad, which is another thing that was like God's order, so I can say. And while I was, they helicoptered me to Grand Rapids. I don't even remember the ride. I wish I did. Never been in the helicopter before, but remember getting on and getting off. And a lot of time was missed. And I've later learned that it's because they put me in a induced coma while I was there. They put me in a induced coma. They put one heart pump in that did not work. And then they put a second heart pump in. I think it's called Impala, and that went through my shoulder here. You see, still got the pack, like it's still healing up. And yeah, it was helping to the blood flow in my heart, so helping pump the blood in my heart. While I was there, when I woke up, I was didn't really feel like I was in my body. Like my whole, they had to put a lot of liquids in me because all the blood was surrounding my heart, trying to protect it and heal it. So it wasn't going to the rest of me. Like my whole, everything was cold. So they were putting a lot of fluids in me and it blew me up. So everything was swollen. My hand was so swollen, I couldn't hold a pen. Like it, like I couldn't do this. It was like this. um, and yeah, I was told I was very mean. My parents explained some more of that last night, but I don't remember most of that. I just remember being irritated and not feeling like I was in my body, like that kind of thing. And I didn't want to open my eyes. I didn't want the lights on. I was being rude. I'm not a rude person at all. Uh, and luckily enough, my uncle was there, and he spoke to me. He came to the end of my bed one day and he was like, Jessica, you don't have to start acting like you want to live. And I heard him, and that kind of was a bit of a turning point. That, and then the next day, I started saying thank yous and pleases and stuff like I was supposed to. And they put me in a chair, and I was sitting there, and I was like, I'm gonna try to like meditate because I need to feel like I'm in here. And while I did that, I can't explain it any other way. Like I feel like I had experience with God, like God spoke to me. And that was my turning point, really. And then the doctors, I think, believe that day came in and told me that I might be on that heart pump. They're predicting that I'll be on it for a month or 2 months. And then also they said that worst case scenario, we're gonna have to start looking for heart transplants, which I didn't accept. Um, and I was like, okay. And I told the doctor, I was like, I'll beat that. And um, not a day or two later, the doctors, they started acting confused. They were running around. They was like, what? And they was messing with my heart pump. It was all the way up on 10. They were turning it down a little bit every couple hours. It was like, it's turning on 8 for a couple hours, 6, 4, 2. And like, my heart was, I was doing fine. And then like the next day, the doctor's assistant, she came in the room and she was like, I was actually on Bible study with my mom, which was like a perfect time. Uh, and she came in, she's like, your heart right now is working at 40%, which I remember I told you like 40, 50% is where you need to be as an adult. And she said, your heart is not expanding and getting bigger for a heart that's sick. A heart that's sick gets bigger. Your heart is staying small and strong. And right now, we believe that the way your heart is healing, the pump may be impeding you healing even more. So we're not taking it out the next day. So that was a Thursday. That Friday, they took it out. And when I got out of surgery, I had a new number of 55%. So I'm above average. And yeah, I can't say it. And it was a miracle because like a few days ago they was telling me I need a heart transplant, and then all of a sudden there was a turn, and uh, I went from the largest room in that cardiac place to the smallest room in the floor below. But I have to say I was very grateful for that room. It had view and it had a regular bathroom. I didn't have to use a commode anymore. And it also had a shower. And I hadn't taken a shower since I had been in the hospital. They had been, sponge baths and wiping me down with baby wipes. And that don't work. I was so grateful because like I was like, can I use the shower? And it's like, let's see if we can get it ordered. And they did. And I was so grateful for that shower. I stubbed my toe on my way to that shower and giggled because I was like, you know what? The things that used to bother me don't bother me no more. They really don't, because I have everything to be grateful for. I really do. And I was in that small room for about 2, 3 days because the doctors came in and was like, we don't do this, like people don't recover this fast. But we're running out of reasons to keep you here. So on April 7th, they made the decision that on April 8th, I would be discharged. And while my parents were driving me home, the solar eclipse was happening over here ahead. So I had to say it was miracles, signs, and wonders all around. And I'm grateful to be here. And I can't say it any other way that like it was God. Um, like I know it was. I have a different relationship now with him than I did before. Like before, it was like, I knew of him. Now I know God, and it's such it's such a good feeling to actually know that God is there. Like to know that God is my friend, to know that God is my healer, and yeah, like even like looking back, like I've been thinking about the things that were even happening beforehand, and like I had a stalker, uh, and I had like things happening in my basement, like my heater went out and my water heater blew up, like literally. And uh, first the soccer went away for a little bit, but then the heat went out. That was like December, but it wasn't really super cold. But I was like, this is a good thing because now my heat will really work when it's getting really cold. So I had a great right attitude for that. And then New Year's Eve, I was in my studio, I was just watching a movie or whatever. And like an hour or two before the ball dropped, I was like, all of a sudden heard a boom. I was like, is that my house? Because they be shooting off stuff all the time. I was like, what's that? I go down the basement, water everywhere, and I figure out how to turn that off. But then I was like, you know what? I've been wanting a better water heater. I had a little small one, and I was like, these things can be replaced. And then, like in January, the stalker came back and threw 3 softballs through my kitchen windows and was yelling for me to come outside. And that kind of shook me up. But one thing, the police got him, so he's getting the help he needs. And then also, those windows would rattle in anyway when cars would pass by and stuff. So like they got replaced, and I didn't have to pay for those. Like all those things, I was like, they can be replaced. Everything could be replaced, and I kept the right attitude. And like there were also other things, like I was getting nudges to work on cardio. I didn't know why. I hated cardio. I hated to run. I really, I was, I hated cardio. I hated to be on that treadmill. I hated being on the elliptical, the rower, all that stuff. I didn't want to do it, but I'd rather just be lifting heavy weights, doing squats, all that stuff. But something told me you should run a mile. You should get on the elliptical and go a couple miles. And just like I had a like this voice to say you should do it. And I started doing it. I started enjoying it, which was surprising to me. But I started going miles on the elliptical and treadmill and doing all kinds of cardio stuff. And that was like a few months before this happened. And I think it was God trying to help prepare me and my heart. And like even a month beforehand, I went vegetarian. And I was thinking, like in my head, okay, this is that. Later, I was like, that was God preparing me too, because like, you go vegetarian, that's better for your heart, your organs and stuff like that. But my dad was like, you did a Daniel fast. And I didn't even know it. So like there were so many things that God was preparing me for this miracle. Like this was a part of God's plan. Like you never want to think about bad things happening and being, a part of God's, but like it was the miracle that came out of it. And now I also have a closer relationship with God. And like I get to tell this over and over again to people. Like I've been shouting to the rooftops. I've called all kinds of people. I've called people I had no contact with for a long time. I called my ex-boss and actually called her to tell her what happened, and then also to thank her for firing me, because this was a part of God's plan. I was not meant to be working for somebody else. I was meant to be an artist. I was meant to be doing this. And yeah, I experienced a miracle.
And oh my goodness, thank you so much for sharing. Man, it's just I'm over here just thanking God, praising God on mute. But I wanted you really to share, right? Because there's so many women out there. And just like you and I, when we talked, so many women out there who don't realize, right, and don't know what their purpose is. But I truly believe that all of these things is just lining up and it's all working for your good. And so when we are the children of God, right, when we are the very elect, the chosen of God, we're going to go through some things, and like
Mm-hmm.
that's just what it is. But what I admire is that when you went through that process, right, even though you may have been in that dark place and you
Mm-hmm.
had someone that came in and said, listen, you're going to have to fight for your life at this point. If you gotta want to be here. And so I think that as women, sometimes we get into that place where it's dark. We can't see. We're numb, right? Things have happened, and we don't want to move forward for whatever reason. And I'm not saying that's your story, but I know that there are women out there that feel that way, like this happened and that happened. But right now, in front of us, ladies, we have a woman who has literally experienced a miracle, and miracles we don't see every day, right? But if we open our eyes, we will see them, right? If we look for them. And I'm just so grateful that God was with you in that process. I was writing down some notes just to think about some of the just testimony after testimony. What you saying, you couldn't even do your hand like this, but you're an
Yeah,
artist. You need your hand, right?
that was messing with me for real. Cause
Yeah.
I can't hold a pen. Like,
Right. So I'm thinking, so I'm putting myself in your position. And
mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, what must you have been experiencing when you were laying in that bed and wondering what was going on, right? And even though you may have been mean at that time or whatever the case may be, a lot of people when they're sick, that's what happens. But at the same time, you heard a voice. And even though, right, I understand that it was a family member that came in, I truly believe that God used him to come in to speak life to you. And so oftentimes people don't realize that when people are in a coma, because I didn't necessarily know this, that they can actually hear you. and you heard him. And when you and I talked, you said you was fighting for your life, but
Yeah.
the people around you didn't know that you was fighting for your life. You know, you like, I'm knocking down doors. I remember you saying that. You was like, I was
Oh,
kicking
my
doors.
dreams. Yeah, like the nurses were saying that when you get put into a deuce coma, they just go to their happy place. That was not happy for me.
Come on.
It was not. I was in
Ooh,
like a nightmare trying to not. I was kicking door kicking doors down, trying to get out of this place I was in. And yeah, it wasn't pleasant.
it wasn't pleasant.
It
Yeah.
was not. But yeah, when I did come out of it, like said, I was awake, but I was still not myself yet. And I'm very grateful. My uncle is like, look, you gotta start treating these people nicely. They're people. And you don't have to start acting like you want to live. Turn these lights on, open your eyes. Like,
And I love that because honestly, when we get to a place like that, even if it's not a medical condition, sometimes we get into a place where it's just dark around us and we just continue feeding into that. And
mm-hmm,
what we focus on grows, you know. So we focus on the negativity, what's not going good, what's not going great, then we'll stay in that place and we'll dig a deeper hole, right?
yeah,
That we have to now come back from just to get to a place of homeostasis. And now we can start over again. But we don't have to stay in that place long if we don't want to. And I'm so
no,
glad. I'm so glad that God used you for this because I know that everything that you have experienced is leading you toward purpose. And to see the attack, the way it came on, right? The way, you know, you couldn't move your hand and how that could mentally affect you, you know, like all the things that happened. Looking at you today, like when you first got on the Zoom, I'm like, you don't look like you've been through nothing. Okay. You look good. All right. You
you
look
want to see the
good. You got
scars?
a
I got them,
glow.
but but
That's
yes,
okay. That's
this
okay. Because God is making us what's the scripture that talks about the potter in the potter, like, you know, molding us over again. I love,
hmm
you know, because we got to be fit for the master's use, whatever that looks like, whatever the assignment is, whatever happens, it's all working for my good. And I know this is all going to work together, right? And
everything works for your good. Even the
absolutely.
things that you think are bad, they're working for your best interest. They're working for your good.
And
And like, if as long as you keep that attitude, it's good for you. Like I had been training myself beforehand anyway to be like, positive mindset. Just
yeah,
like, okay, these things can be replaced. It's okay because I can get new and better. I can afford to fix this.
come
This is
on.
needed to be fixed anyway. What if it broke down and it was like a snowstorm and like, I'll be sitting here cold. Like all those things happen when they needed to happen.
That's it. And I love the grace, how gracefully you went through those processes. Because I think that, and I know because I've been there myself. Sometimes when the storms of life come in, we can really lean in to those storms and giving
Mhm.
it life and making it bigger than our God. You
It's
know,
all about
bigger than
concentrate on.
what'd you
It
say?
is. It's all about what you concentrate on.
Yes, come on. It's all about
Mm.
what you concentrate on. Because truly, what you focus on grows. And if you're focusing on negative things, what can you expect? You can't
More
expect
negative.
positive things to happen, right?
It's the seeds that you plant. Like if you're planting negative seeds, you're gonna get negative things. If you
Come
don't,
on.
you don't plant positive things, you get positive things.
Absolutely. And I just commend you, man. I'm just so grateful. Like the excitement in your voice when I talk to you, maybe a couple of days after you got out of the hospital.
Hmm
I'm like, there is no way you could have been in the hospital,
I was,
right? I mean, but we are, I mean, God has, you just have to continue to speak what God has done for you. And just like we talked about before, just continue to speak and share that. People need to hear that and know that.
yes,
And not to use it as a crutch or an excuse to not move forward in the things of God, because God has us on a journey, right? And
Yeah.
Road leads to him, but it's about choices too. So it's power of life and death in our tongue. And so if we not speaking right the right things, it's just like you said, if you plant in negative seeds, you're going to get a negative harvest. And that's 100% true, you know? And so it's about making sure that we're making the most out of the time that we have. And so I
Yeah.
love how God works things out for us, because now it's like you got this new fire, right? You have been ignited. He has ignited the
I've
flame.
I've very much learned that this is a gift God gave me, this life. Like I've been telling people, like, feel your heartbeat, like Wikio tells no, all those things are gifts. Like everything working correctly in your body, a gift. Like being able to take a shower, a gift. Being able to get some food, those are all gifts. So you gotta use your gifts right. Like, some people will put their gift on a shelf. Some people will like misuse their gift to throw it away.
Come
And
on,
then there are
Queen.
people that are going to, like, use their gift for the purpose that it was given to them for. And I'm trying to use my gift. This
Yes.
life is a gift.
Yes, it is. And it's so precious, and it's so timely,
Mm,
right? That sense of urgency and just getting stuff done. And that obedience. That's another thing I wrote down here was the obedience. And even before this happened, God gave you some things to do before this actually happened. And so that obedience part is so key in us honestly fulfilling the will of God, because without faith, it's impossible to please God. So if I don't want to believe you on this end, why would I believe you for my healing?
mm,
Right? He's leading you to do the cardio. You could have said, no, I don't want to do that. And that could have affected the outcome. But
yeah.
because you decided to do that and then to change your diet right before it happened and all these things, God is so gracious. And I truly believe that He sends warnings, right? He sends people to us to speak a word of encouragement, to tell us something that we needed for our journey. And either we can reject the knowledge or we can take it and actually apply it. So I'm so grateful that you did all the things and God did all the things for you. And so I'm just looking forward to see what your life is going to look like after this. I want everybody to make sure that they go and follow her
Yeah.
page. I tagged her in this post, Jessica Hightower art. Her art
Yeah.
is absolutely amazing.
I
I
also
just
have
want, what'd you
Instagram
say?
and TikTok
Come on,
is
all of
the
them.
artist underscore Jessica. So I love it if you can follow me on there.
Yeah.
And I'm registered for Art Prize, so figure out where I'm gonna be there. So there's things coming. I doing a live painting event if you're around the Buchanan
Oh,
area and Saint Joe. I'm gonna do 2 live painting events. So like I'm out here working as an artist, and then also my website, jhightowerart.com. You can purchase art on there. I have prints for sale, and I'm gonna probably be putting some originals up there soon too.
I love it. I got my art piece, y'all. Listen, I'm not at home. I'm not in my home office right now, but I have it up in my home office. And so make sure
Mm,
you guys go out and support her. It's amazing, right? We don't have and I don't know of many artists that we have locally here. My son is an artist, right? I'm an artist at heart. Okay, but I have not produced anything. But this woman is out here doing the work. So let's support this woman of God that's out here having miracles done, right? Being obedient, ministry on 10. Okay. Let's sow into her. Let's buy and purchase her artwork. Let's attend these events that she has coming up, because it takes a village, right? So as a legendary woman, and we're gonna close because we weren't gonna be on long, we need each other, right? And so I
mm,
talk about this often when I do these broadcasts. We were not ever intended to be an island and be here alone. God put us here, but we are here with each other to help each other. And so we want to advance the kingdom, right? But and we want to obviously be pleasing in the sight of God. But sometimes we go through things that make us not want to do that, if we're honest. And so we need each other to help us to remember why, right? we decided to accept Christ in the first place, why we decided to start our businesses. And so,
Mhm.
and our ministries, all those things, we want to not forget those things, but also be encouraged along the journey. So that's it for today. Thank y'all so much for joining us. This is something we planned last week or the week before. I don't even know. It's been a while. But I wanted to have a graphic and everything. I fell short on that, but I'm going to make sure I continue to share this. So I want anyone that listened to this broadcast today, please share this live to your page so people can see and know miracles, signs, and wonders. Like she said, miracle signs and wonders. Look for the book.
Miracle signs and
Okay.
wonder, period.
Period. That part. Okay. Look for the book or whatever she's going to do, however God is going to move. Continue to follow this young woman of God. And so that's all for today. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I will see you again soon. Take care.
See ya.
All right. Take care, Jessica. I'll see you soon.
All right. See ya.
Okay,
Thanks.
bye.